the University of Reddit official StarCraft 2 strategy, where we discuss different strategies. And today we're going to be focusing on when to attack and when to defend. So let's get right into it. So our first replay that we're going to be watching, well, to give you a premise, um, these are replays from people that I have coached before. I believe this guy is a diamond player, or he's either a diamond or a platinum player. Both of the replays I'm going to be showing you are from platinum and diamond players, and the reason I chose these is because they they show some very obvious mistakes that we can really learn from. And so we're going to be doing it from the Protoss perspective, but if you guys are Zerg or Terran, you can apply these to any match up, really. Um, it doesn't only have to be focused on Protoss. All these concepts really work for any race in general. But we are going to be looking at it at a Protoss perspective and how he can really improve on his work. So, starting off here, let's not go that times 4. Let's go to this faster. And I started 1 minute in because, who wants to watch the first minute of drones and pros mining? No one really wants to watch that. So the first thing off the bat here is a Condemned Ridge. It is a pretty shitty Blizzard map, but nevertheless, it's still a map in the ladder pool, so we have to learn how to play it pretty much. Um, the first thing I would say, right off the bat, is this pylon placement is a little bit strange because it does not uh, wall this off nicely, and it turns out he's actually going to be walling off, doing kind of like the semi-wall off over here, which is fine, but you have to remember if you're doing something like this, your first pylon should not be in the front. That's just standard. If you're gonna do a wall off like this, and there's no problem doing a wall off like this, I personally like to have a wall off in the front, but if you are going to wall off like this, you do want to have this pylon somewhere around here so Lings can't just run up and attack it, and if he does a roach attack for some reason, he can just pick this off and really just take out your forge and everything else pretty much. So uh, building placement, very important in the in the beginning of the game. And it looks like everything else is pretty standard so far. He's going to be getting his forge, his gateway, and all that good stuff. And in Camp Zerg, we do have a early gas going up, so our Protoss player does have to worry about things like Speedlings or maybe a Roach All-In or something like that. But we can see here that everything else besides just the gas is pretty normal in the metagame right now. In the normal metagame, you usually don't get gas, and you would get the third hatchery down here and just power up on drones, but we'll see if he wants to do something with his gas, or maybe he just likes having gas. But other than that, it looks like we have our normal strategic gas for our Protoss player at 20 supply, and everything looks honky-dory. Once again, you do not want your pylons all the way. Not only are they bunched up, but you do not want them in the front like this because, like I said before, if there's a roach attack, they can easily just um, pick these off without you being able to really do much. So another thing about building placement, if you are Protoss, my personal preference is to always, no matter how big, I believe Condemned Ridge has the biggest front, but, and that is a pretty bad play from our Zerg player, but I believe Condemned Ridge has the biggest front, if I'm not mistaken, but it is still relatively easy to wall off, and really what you want to do is build a really solid wall with containing either let's say, I think for a map like this, maybe 3 solid buildings and a pylon over here, or maybe even just 3 solid buildings and a zealot. And that's really going to secure your wall, because in the late game, if you're moving out and he has a bunch of speedlings to counterattack, he can just basically run in here, go into the mineral line, and the only thing that's stopping him is a couple of cannons. And if he just holds position with a bunch of blinks here, he's going to be able to kill the probes and potentially get into your main base as well. So late run buys, especially speedlings, are always a threat anytime in the game, whether it be mid or late game or even early game if he's going for some sort of rush tech. So everything else seems pretty normal. He's getting his gateway attacks. He's getting his gateways up. Um, and if we put up our Harvester tab, you can see that our Protoss player is pretty much up uh, ahead in this game so far. It's not, it's not, it's very normal for Protoss to be up on Harvesters because of the Chrono Boost that we can spend, and we should always be up on Harvesters until around the probably around the 30 to 40 supply, and you can see here um, the Zerg is catching up, but like I said, we should always be up. And our Protoss player, we have to commend him that he is doing well, just building probes, and that's where you want to be. His Chrono Boost is a little bit high for this early in the game, but that can be forgiven for now. So in Camp Zerg, what is our Zerg player doing? He looks like he's building his Roach Warren. Looks like he's getting massive amount of drones, a little bit oversaturated here. But everything looks pretty normal, and it looks like he's decided to just macro up and get his third hatchery. A little bit late, but um, I mean, that's just what he wants to do. I mean, I'm not sure exactly why he needs all this gas now, but that's what he wants. So right now, we see right off the bat that our Protoss player looks like he wants to put pressure, and it's already coming now. Now, I have a problem with this pressure already. If we look, and obviously the topic of the game today is learning when to attack and when to defend. So obviously he has in mind that he wants to do some sort of 4-gate pressure. What I really don't like about this is he had the forge and he didn't get any upgrades during this time. And if you're going for a like 8 to 9 minute attack, and you have this much minerals and gas banked up already, you should have +1, and that makes your initial attack way stronger. Obviously, there are variations of this where maybe you don't have the amount of minerals or gas to be able to get the +1/+1, but in this case, he was fully able to do it, and if he did get it, it would just make his push way stronger than it initially is. Also, with this attack, I'm very, very confused because if we look at his vision, he has zero vision whatsoever. The first thing you need to do if you're going to attack is try to at least clear a pathway so he doesn't know if you're going to attack. So right now, we don't even have a watchtower. So if we were playing a good Zerg player, he would have a Zergling here already to scout if any sort of zealot is going to come up and kill him, or if there's a big attack coming. He's basically a good Zerg with scout. And if we're looking at the everyone's vision here, that's exactly what a Zerg player is doing. He has his Zergling here, and if we press play and look at our Zerg's vision, this is the problem with what I have. Now he's able to see all these stalkers, and he has to know that an attack is coming, and he also sees the sentry and zealots. Another thing that I really do not like about this attack is he has no probe with him. So how can he expect to reinforce, really? If you're going to be doing an attack, especially a timing attack, you have to have an avenue to reinforce with. So if you don't have a pylon by his base already, and a lot of times when I'm doing my own PVZ and I want to put on pressure early in the game, if the Zerg is able to take out my pylon that's near his base, um, my attack has basically already failed. I basically did not hit the timing that I want. I did not hide my pylon as well as I should have, and he's going to be pretty much up in the game. And in this game, you can see that our Protoss player hasn't even attempted to throw down a pylon anywhere. So right now, if he wants to reinforce, he has to reinforce all the way back from his base, and you can see on this map is pretty big from here to here. It's a long distance to walk, even for stalkers, even though they're pretty fast. Another thing to note is way too many probes on each nexus. Never do that. This could be 50, 100, 150, another 150. That's 300 minerals he could have banked up right now on units doing an attack. So that's another thing to note. Looks like he forgot his +1, so he's getting it now. But that's really not going to do anything in this attack because it's not going to be finished. One thing that I was very upset to see in this as well is our Protoss buddy does not even bother to check the third, and there's no reason to not check the third. Third is right there. Send a zealot, send a probe, send something. You got to see if he has the third. So if he does have, and the third is just going to give you a bunch of information. If he's thrown down the third, you know that he can't have a huge army right now, and if he doesn't have a third, he could have a huge army because he could spend those resources on units. So, but other than that, we're gonna just look at everyone's vision. And since our Zerg player is not that great, he did not. I'm assuming that he wasn't able to see units, even though he had a Zergling here to scout. But building these roaches is way too late, and so this Protoss player is doing way more damage than he should, really. And like I said before, right now he does have the upper hand, but because he's reinforcing his roaches and lings and all that good stuff, he can't my the Protoss player has to reinforce, and like I said, he can't reinforce because there are no pylons. So even though this attack wasn't supposed to do a lot of damage, it did way more damage than it should have. Um, but the Zerg was still able to hold it off. And you can see here the Stalkers, he warped in from all the way back here, and this timing attack is just not going to work anymore. The Zerg already saw it, he's built a ton of roaches, he's got his creep nice and spread out, and just look at all this time wasted that he's walking over. Not only that, the Zerg player has vision and could see all of those stalkers coming in. So that should cue the Zerg to keep making units, which he is half and half doing right now, which is a little bit ballsy, but I would have built probably all units if I were him, but he decided to build some drones in there as well. And this is a position that you never want to be in. You do not want to engage your Zerg on creep. And Zerg players, this is exactly what you're basically waiting for. You're waiting for the Protoss. I mean, this is a real treat for Zerg. He sees that it's only stalkers. There's no sentries to block off sections of the roaches, and retreating is gonna be annoying because the stalkers are on creep and roaches are really fast on creep. So even retreating is probably the best option right now, but it would have been much easier if he had engaged off of creep. Then he would lose way less stalkers. So right now, this is not a position that the Protoss really wants to be in. We're going to see a really good concave from our Zerg player, and basically our Protoss player wasted a ton of units. Now, how many units did he exactly lose? We don't need to know the exact specifics. All we have to do is bring up the resource tab, and we can already see that our Protoss player is losing way more than he should. Um, way more resources, and this is going to be the tail of the tape pretty much. We're going to basically see um, the resource tab skyrocket for the Protoss player, and this is what I also want to bring up as well. Our Protoss player was able to build a War Prism, and that helps with reinforcement here. But right now, like there is no reason to attack. Like I can't think of one good reason why he would have his units here, especially when the Zerg has been massing up this whole time with a huge army. Like you can't really outmass a Zerg when he knows that you're in his front base. Like this is a perfect position for him, and the strategy that the I see what the Protoss is trying to do. I know that he wants, even before I watched the replay, I know that he wants to poke up with these stalkers, and he's going to do something tricky with this War Prism and harass. And this is kind of a fancy way of doing it, and I love the concept of what he's trying to do, but right now it is not the position, he is not in a position to try to do this, because first of all, this army here has no real retreat path, and it could all be pretty much picked off if he does poke up. and he should know that the opponent has speedlings as well. So if he does want to do some sort of harassment in the main base, the Zerg should be able to defend it really easily, um, because he doesn't have to worry too much about just stalkers at this point. So let's see how this plays out. So we see our Protoss opponent trying to be a little bit tricky, bringing in the War Prism to do some harassment, and he's poking up here. Like I said, not a good position at all. Roaches are just going to clean up everything. Stalkers are very, very expensive units. It may not seem like it, but once you get better and better, you'll start to realize that you have to really decide when you want to use stalkers and when you want to warp in zealots and sentries. And stalkers, especially in the early game, are kind of a luxury item almost to have. Now, this is what I'm talking about. So he was able to defend the front relatively easily, and he is also, since he's already in his base, it's not like he is his army is way out here in the front, and then the Protoss wants to, do some tricky attack up here to bring him back. He's basically just warping in units, hoping that he can just kill off whatever is in the main base, but he has to realize he didn't take out any of the roaches that he initially wanted to. So there's no way that this harassment could even do anything, because um, there's a whole army that he has to face, and he's just basically reinforcing minimal units. So this is all pretty much just a waste right now. And as we can see here, the Protoss guy, he's not even focusing down his roach, he's just focusing down overlords. And I don't know if I agree with that either, like why is he need to take out overlords, but that was his choice at the time. And at the end of the day, even though the Protoss had a very nice, he had a nice theory. He said, if I am able to distract him up here, I'll be able to do harassment up here. But there's a time and place when to do these things, and it definitely wasn't now. And if we look at, um, how do we look at workers killed? Okay, workers killed. He actually did a good amount of workers killed in the beginning of the game, but the amount that he killed during that attack, let's see how many drones he was able to actually kill. So he killed a good amount. He killed 7 drones, but at the same time, let's see, is losing let's put it this way, is losing 7 drones worth all of this? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 stalkers. I believe he killed all of them. That's 13 stalkers lost. Now he's going to go up here, and how many zealots are there? These are 6 zealots, and 6 more stalkers. So, losing like 13, plus 6 stalkers, plus 4 zealots, that is a lot of money and resources wasted to kill 7 drones. The Zerg can make 7 drones way easier than you can replenish however much the Protoss lost. And that's just easy to tell with the resource tab. He's lost double the amount that the Zerg has done just because he tried to be a little bit too fancy with his attack. And yeah, so at that point, if your first attack fails as Protoss, you have to really back off. You have to know that you're not in a good position. Um, you're you're not in a position to really press the Zerg, and you have to just go home. And if he had that huge army that he had before, like those 13 stalkers and those 6 stalkers that he had up here, and if he was just using those stalkers to defend his third base down here, he would be in a much better position. And I believe right now he basically doesn't have any units. Um, See right here, look at his units. He has 2 Colossi, and he's warping in Zealots right now with a Warp Prism. And if the Zerg wanted to attack right now, there's really nothing much that the Protoss can do. Now the Protoss is trying to do this harassment again, but at the same time, this harassment is even worse in theory than his original harassment because he's not even poking up with any other units or he's not providing any sort of distractions or something like that. So his army is just chilling here. His army is just chilling wherever. It could be in the main base, it could be at the natural, it could be at the third. He's on his own creep. Um, so when you're warping in units in his base, roaches are really fast on creep, and they can just run back very quickly and defend. Um, and the Zerg doesn't have to worry about any other counterattacks because he knows that he's already taken out that huge force before. So he can afford to just bring all his units and 1A, where the War Prism is, and take out those units without losing much. And now we're looking at the resources lost tab again. He's just continuing to rack up the resources lost. And this is never, 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 never good. And you can see here, he's going to try it again. This is all just wasted minerals. Not only that, now he's built 3 DTs. DTs are super expensive units. And if you know that your Zerg player has lair, um, a good Zerg player will automatically build an Overseer as soon as as soon as he has a lair, just for any DTs or scouting the main base of the Protoss. Um, right now, he doesn't, I believe, but he builds it right away, and you can see that this attack, like, if he was lucky, he would be able to take out the lair. But the overseer is finished, and that is a ton of resources just lost for no reason. Um, like I said, if he had that extra, if they were tied in resources lost, if he had 4,000 extra resources in just army, I mean, like, and he was defending his third base, he would be in a not bad position. He should be around the same. Um, they should basically be tied three base to three base. Zerg should be getting his fourth after this, but the Zerg is in just such a good position right now that it doesn't even really matter. Um, Now we do see that our Protoss player is trying to rebuild at his natural again. But like I said, if he had those extra 4,000 resources, imagine how big his army would look right now. Imagine if he had all those stalkers that he saved, and they were just chilling here right now. It would be a much different situation. He would probably be even almost close to the supply of the Zerg, but as you can see here, it's not working out. Again, right now, why would you attack? Again, no real scouting. The only thing he has is this one pylon up here. Um, Not only that, he's warping in zealots on creep, so the Zerg knows something should be up. He did not take out this watchtower yet. It's so important to take out these watchtowers because if you let the Zerg or Terran or anyone have these watchtowers, it's just a huge help for them to know when to defend and when to attack, really. And this is a very, very unstable army. 4 Colossi, obviously very, very strong, but they're only strong if they have a lot of support. And with 4 Stalkers and a handful of Zealots and 1 Archon, that is not enough support to be able to topple over as many roaches as he's seen. Because he already knows pretty much how many roaches the guy has because he's been defending this whole time with all of his roaches. So he should know that he has a huge roach count, and he should know that moving out right now is not a smart idea because he has all those units already. And at this point, you want to really just sit back and bank those minerals and invest in gas. Start getting those heavy tier 3 units like Immortals and Colossi, and you want to start maxing out. But right now, he's moving out for no apparent reason with 134 supply. And there's no reason to move out at 134 supply. Like, there's no trigger or weakness that allows you to say, okay, now is my time to attack. If you had done maybe super, super crazy economical damage, like maybe you took out his third, or maybe you killed 30 drones, or something like that, and you know the Zerg is really hurting and he's maybe like at the same supply at 130, and you're at 130, then that sounds like a reasonable timing attack you can do because you're taking advantage of the fact that you already did damage before. But our Protoss player didn't do that damage before. He's wasted a ton of resources, and he should know that the Zerg should have a bigger army right now. And like I said, there is no reason to attack right now as the Protoss player. So we can see this going in, the roaches coming in, and like I said, not enough support units. He takes out all the ground forces relatively easily. Um, 4 Colossi for free, 2 Immortals for free, and now he is left with nothing. Um, and that's pretty much the end of the game. It does go on for a little bit longer, but it's really prolonging the inevitable of him just taking out the third. You can see that he barely has enough units to even try to defend reasonably well, and he's just losing a very, very, very downhill battle. So this little resource cap calls it off. 6,000 or 7,000 lost to 14,000. You're not going to find anyone who can really salvage from that. And the only way to really come back from a position like this is to just max up a 200 army, because a Protoss 200 army versus a mild 200 army, and when I say mild 200 army, I mean like tier 2 units like roaches and stuff like that, because if you have 200 supply of roaches, that's actually not good at all. This is when he should start transitioning into things like Brewlords and stuff like that. So you do eventually have to prepare for that late game. So that's basically it for this replay. Let's quit that. And if you guys have any questions, let me know. Uh, Alright, and I will lower the in-game sound. Seems like it's a little bit too high, so. And I have to put on the code. This is the most annoying part of having a authenticator. Alright, now we are going to be looking, hold on, let me change the sound for you guys. Seems like it's a little bit too loud. And hopefully that's better. Okay. So let's look at the Terran versus Protoss. Different guy. I'm not sure. I'm getting them mixed out. I'm not sure which one is the Diamond player and which one's the Platinum player. But they both show similar skill level, and so it's not too important. Just know that they're around Platinum, Diamond level players. So let's speed this up a little bit. We don't need to watch probes and SCVs mine forever. And some friendly banter here. So, some things that we can review from that last game. Um, so you might be asking yourself, okay, so when is a good time to do a harassment like we tried to see him do with the Warp Prism? A good time to do something like that would be if you have a stronger army at the bottom towards the natural and third. Like if you are preparing to attack, like full on attack, and the Zerg has to have 100% concentration on your army, then it would be a good time to send in that War Prism, because you know that he's going to be sending his whole army to try to defend his bases. And if you sneak in that Warp Prism while he's so concentrated on the battle, and you warp in a couple of zealots to kill him, it's very, very hard for the Zerg to try to manage that while he's being attacked. So that's a very good time to attack. Another really good time to attack with harassment type units is if the Zerg is moving out. So if the Zerg is moving out to do a huge attack and he has units rally to your base basically, if you send a War Prism while he's in the middle of the map and warp in a huge ton of zealots into his main base, he's going to have to either make a choice of either, going for a base trade scenario, which he's most likely not going to do since it's only just zealots, or he's going to have to, and the proper response is he's going to have to send his whole army back. So if he had a timing attack that he really wanted to do, it's basically been thwarted by only a couple of zealots, and that's when you want to try to do a harassment. Uh, that's when you want to try to do that sort of harassment, rather than just having a very weak army attack a ton of roaches and then trying to be fancy and warp in just like a couple of zealots into the main. That's not really gonna do much. And the thought was there, and I really like the thought. It's just his execution of it was really off. So good concept, just not good execution. Now, what do we see here? Looks like we have a one gate expand, very, very normal, and it looks like we have a gasless Terran just getting his fast expansion, very, very normal in this case. What's not normal is getting this many barracks this early, but that's just probably him, like players that aren't that good don't have the best build orders, but it's not exactly bad either, but, you know, this is what he's decided to do, and I would have gotten a gas by now and, tried to get some upgrades up, but, that's what he wants to do. It looks like there was a tiny skirmish here, but nothing really big. Looks like a Zealot got a kill. Got a couple of sentries. We got the Nexus finishing, and everything looks pretty normal. And and from what I can see here, it looks like it's gonna be a 3-gate pressure attack. Um, Now this time around, it looks like he is preparing very well. He is getting his pylon up early. It could have been a little bit earlier, so he could warp in now, but um, and he has a little bit extra money for 3 gates. This could have been like a 4-gate if he had done it properly, but or I mean, it would have been fine as a 3-gate if he had macro properly, but if your macro's not that good, don't be afraid to throw down an extra gates until your macro does get to that point. Not everyone's perfect at first, and you may need that those extra gateways. The only thing I would say is just keep your money low. If you can keep your money low, you'll start to realize when you can start cutting gateways, when they're not necessary, and things like that. Now again, uh, why don't I like this attack? Well, let's look at our Protoss player's vision. Nothing. He hasn't checked anything yet. I didn't see any probes, or you can see right here that he hasn't checked anything. He hasn't checked the front, and that's all you can really check right now. And he should have brought at least a probe or a stalker or a zealot or something to be able to check what he has up front. And if he did check what's up front, he would see that there are 2 bunkers here and a 3rd building. And so the Terran, whether he knows that a pressure is coming or not, he's just being very, very safe. And you can't engage into something like this when you have so few units here. And so we're going to see how this plays out. So now is his first glimpse of seeing it. And immediately right here, um, the basis of our lecture is when to attack and when to defend. And right now, you should be able to calculate, okay, he has 2 bunkers, he has a couple extra marines, and these bunkers are attacking, so he has to have marines in them. Can my army take out his? And this is pretty much just an experience thing. If, figuring out how much I can kill with how much I have. And just looking at this scenario, if you gave me a screenshot of this and told me, all right, who's going to win this battle, hands down, the Terran is going to win because he has SCVs that he can pull. He has more Marines that are coming out. Um, and this, even if this guy has perfect macro as Protoss, it's going to be really, really difficult to try to attack this. So what is the proper response at this second right here? Now, the perfect response would be to just back off. Don't even try. Just walk away. Lose as few units as you can, and you should be fine. And even though the pressure didn't work, you can still use these units to defend. And that's also very key if he's trying to do a timing attack as well. Um, Now, a response that a lesser player would probably do is try to attack anyways, and I could see why he would want to because he's thinking in his head, alright, I already have this pressure up, I already have my 3 gates up, I have to do something with it. Even though that's not like the best response. So look, so he's probably going to try to take out as much as he can. So let's see how that goes right here. So it looks like he's hesitating a little bit, but he wants to commit, and at this point, boom. Right now, he's lost only Zealots, which is pretty good. Um, I mean, the best case scenario, like I said, would to just be walk away and keep those Zealots. But if you lose your Zealots and you realize that you haven't even killed one bunker yet, like this bunker is barely damaged and you don't even have any big damage dealers, and he has all this army, your best response right now at this second would be to get all my expensive units out. That means getting the sentries out is a priority, and getting the stalkers out is also very important because they're both very, very expensive units. You can see right here, he was trying to be a little bit greedy and take out those a couple of Marines, but that cost him a stalker, and he didn't even kill any Marines. So already, resources lost way more than he should have. If he kept those zealots and that extra stalker, they would probably be even by now, or maybe even he would have maybe even lost less. So what is our Protoss player doing right now? So um, I really don't like how he's hanging around here, and it looks like he's gonna go for another attack. And this is something that I can't really comprehend at this point, because you already know that 2 bunkers were done, and sure, you killed the SCV to that 3rd bunker, but it's not like he's not going to finish that because he knows pressure could be on the way. So he's going to definitely have 3 bunkers. He's going to be continue macroing with Marines and eventually Marauders. So how are you going to even try to do damage with something so little? Um, it just doesn't really make sense at this point. There's no real reason to try to barrel through. It's not like you have 7 gates at your base right now. Like the only thing you have, he's not even teching up yet, and that's a really big deal right now. If you're trying to do pressure, you need to either do some damage or you need to tech behind it at least. It's 9 minutes in the game. You need to have something. You need to have either Twilight, you need to have your Robo, um, you need to have some sort of tech to be able to defend against medevacs and Vikings and things like that. So if we continue, I'm not sure exactly how much he's going to commit to this, but even warping in units here is just not a very smart idea. So it looks like he might want to try to go again, but now, okay, so he's doing sort of the right response. He's saying, all right, he has a bunch of units here. I can attack. I'll just take my losses and just run back. And hopefully that's what he does. I think he tries to do another little pressure here. I mean, it doesn't really make sense if he tries to, but so he sees a bunch of Marines here and he walks back. He's probably thinking right now, oh, I can pick off a couple of units at least or something like that, but you have to really be careful. You don't know if he has stim yet. You don't know if there's marauders behind this, and having 3 sentries just walking around in the middle of the map is never a good idea. Never, never, never. And this is just him trying to be cute. Takes out one Marine. Not really worth 4 force fields, to be honest, for one Marine. And now he's walking back. So, the game basically normalizes. Um, you can see that our Terran player is, he's doing a very good response. He knows that, alright, he tried to do a pressure attack. That might have been maybe 4 gates, maybe, or 3 or 4 gate pressure. Maybe he doesn't have tech behind this, or if he does have tech. What he does know for a fact that is you're not going to have 3 bases. And so the Terran is basically saying, well, if you're not going to have 3 bases, I can just build mine, and I'm always going to be up on macro um, compared to you, which is a pretty good response from him. And what does our Protoss player do? It looks like he is finally got his robo. Looks like he's getting a robotics bay, and he's getting double forge. And all this is pretty expensive off one base. I think he does make it work because his macro is a little bit slipping, but ooh, he should be building that thermal lance. But yeah, this is a lot of tech for one base. To have all these gates, 7 gates, 2 forges, robotics bay with Colossus. That's a lot of stuff off one base. But like I said, if your macro isn't perfect, this might not be a bad idea, because if your macro is not perfect, look at his minerals and gas. He does have enough minerals and gas to be able to start all of this. He can have all his upgrades, his thermal lance, and Colossus going very comfortably. And even though at the highest levels, all of this is unnecessary, or not unnecessary, but having a really good macro player would not be able to function all these gates. Um, and get all this tech out at the same time. But like I said, if you're having trouble macroing, it's always good to have more units to keep your money low than to just not spend your money at all. So it looks like our Protoss player is going to be massing up quite an army. At this point, I would really like the Protoss to scout. It looks like he's finally scouting here, which is good. So he sees the third base. He sees a pretty big army here. And so the Protoss really has to respond. How does the Protoss respond from here? He's going to... Well, he needs to do one of 2 things. He needs to either defend and take a third base, or he can try to put on some pressure and try to punish the Terran for taking a third very early. And it seems like he has enough minerals and gas to really do both. Um, like I said, a Masters player would probably not be able to do all of this at the same time. But like I said earlier, if you can afford it, and if your macro is not the best, then you can do things like this. And so he is able to mass up a big army and make a third at the same time. But you have to realize that uh, the the Terran army should be bigger and have the better macro. And what he does, bigger he has the better harvester count. Um, and at this point, the Protoss should try to do some sort of economical damage to get back in the game, because if the Terran player has a third base earlier than the Protoss, and he has more harvesters, and he has mules, you're basically losing a downhill battle. So doing this attack is not a bad idea at all from him, actually. It's actually a pretty good idea, because, like I said, the Terran was being a little bit greedy, and the Protoss player is trying to punish him for that. So that's what he's doing right now. And as you can see here, by the way, pretty damn good force fields for a diamond player, I must say. Those were pretty freaking spot on. Obviously, the best position would be like if he trapped the units and had the zealots up here to attack. But really, like in a situation like that where he didn't know where the army was, or he should have known where the army was, but those were pretty damn good force fields. I was pretty impressed by that. But anyways, on with the lesson. So it looks like he's trying to decide whether to attack the army or whether to attack the SCVs. And now he's doing a ton of damage to really both. So the Terran player is walled out. He can't really attack. The Protoss player is doing really, really, really good economic damage right now. I mean, he's caught up in harvesters now. He kind of basically didn't do that well when it comes to the micro. Could have done a lot better, and maybe he could have backed off at like a point like this, but like right now, like I don't know why these zealots aren't attacking him. But at the end of the day, it was a pretty. He lost the Colossi. I think he could have, if he had just okay. So if he had just done that damage and then just walked back, he would have a bunch of units from. We'll just go back very slightly. So he did the attack. He did the necessary damage. There's no more SCVs here. And if he was a smarter player, he would realize that, well, if he had better micro, he'd be able to take all this out. But since he doesn't, he should be able to right here. At this point is the perfect time to just run back. You know that the Terran player has a planetary fortress at the third. I'm almost positive that he does. Yes, he knows that's a planetary. So you have to ask yourself at this point, is this army big enough to take out a planetary? And the answer is no, because not only is the Terran massing up more units and getting Vikings out and things like that, Master Pair is pretty freaking OP. Sorry, I just had to say that out loud, but Master Pair on a planetary is really good. If you don't have splash damage like a bunch of Colossi or High Templars, you're never going to get through. And as you can see, as this plays out, he just runs back to his planetary and it's over. So he basically lost all those units when he could have kept a lot of those and just walked back with that one Colossus. And if he just defended his third base, he'd be fine. Now, so that was a good attack from the Protoss player. He did a good amount of economical damage. How does the Protoss take this advantage even further? And as if you watch the GSL, or if you know Tasteless and Artosis, you know when you're ahead, get more ahead. He knows, or he should have seen, that he took out a lot of harvesters. He took out a huge amount of the Terran army, so it's not like he can even counterattack right now. And he's forced a lift on his command center. So the Terran player should really be hurting economically, and not only that, the Protoss player has a third base on top of all of this. So the Protoss is in a really, really, really good position. He has all this money. He could be spending it on, well, he doesn't have the Twilight. He should have the Twilight by now. But he could be getting upgrades right now. He could be massing up units. Um, and unfortunately, he does the worst thing possible in this position. Now, I know that every single person has been in this position. You do a huge amount of damage to your enemy, and you're saying to yourself, "This game is won. I won this game. Um, all I have to do is reinforce, just keep attacking until he falls, and then I win." Unfortunately, you have to figure out if that's actually true or not. And a lot of times, I know a lot of you out there have probably said this before. You've overcommitted with units, and then eventually they were able to come back somehow. Now, what the Protoss player should be thinking right now is, what are the possible ways that a Terran could get back in this game? Like, how could a Terran possibly get back in this game after being demolished like that? And and the real answer is, I mean, he could do. he could do a variety of things. He could maybe build another command center for another base somewhere. He could continue to just defend and try to mass up a huge army to bring it into the late game, which is what a lot of people would probably do. He could try to drop into your base to try to do some harassment. And these are all things that the Terran can do. Um, and the last thing that I said is that the Terran can eventually just drop everywhere if he really wanted to. And so that's one of the things you have to take into consideration. If you have your whole army here, how are you going to have enough to really defend your base? Right now we have 3 stalkers here, and that's really not enough to defend if he has like maybe 2 medevacs coming to coming to your base. Even if you had 1 medevac and you weren't paying attention, and he was able to drop all of them and like stim in and kill these, you would be in a very bad spot because you warped in units here, and you were trying to be greedy to take the game. And like I said before, there's no way that you're bringing down this planetary fortress without mass AoE damage, meaning storm or colossi, one of those. So having these stalkers just try to poke at this planetary is pretty much useless. As you can see here, it's not really going to do anything. He takes out 1 more SCV and takes a huge amount of damage from the stalkers, even losing a stalker, and he continues to warp in units here. And this is very, very dangerous. Just watching this game, you can feel basically the blood rushing through Penny Wisdom's veins, saying, "Okay, I got this game. This game is won. All I have to do is keep massing up units, and I'll eventually win." Um, Another thing that I hate about this is that he's walking a Colossi by himself here. This is like the worst thing you could do ever. I can't tell you how bad this is. Every Colossi needs to be supported with units. That's just pretty much common knowledge, and something that you have to watch out for. He was very lucky this time around, but um, it's not something when you do that you want to do. Again, like stopping here. Let's say this army wasn't here. Would he still be able to take out this planetary? Maybe. But at the same time, he only has 1 AoE damage unit, and that's the Colossus. And it's not like he sees the Terran moving out or anything like that, so he should assume that the Terran army is around somewhere. And so if this planetary is here, being protected by an army, 1 Colossus with a handful of units is not really going to do anything. And you can see here, immediately taken out. Some okay force fields, not even. That actually is bad luck. And this is simply just overcommitting. Um, he's built a bunch of units. Uh, they're all not in his base defending. And this is looking very scary for the Protoss player, because what is really defending? There isn't much defending here. And drops is something that you always have to look out for. Now, it looks like he's trying to morph in Archons aren't exactly the best thing against the planetary again. So, Terran overextended a little bit, but we have this next battle coming up, and I mean, this is just the worst angle you could pick as a Protoss player. Like, if you wanted to attack this orbital again, sure. That's actually not a bad idea, because it would not be near a freaking planetary fortress. Planetary fortress already has 11 kills by itself. You can tell that they're super, super cost efficient. And it's just basically like running into a wall if you don't have AoE damage. So it looks like he's trying to get his High Templars, but does he even have Storm yet? No, he doesn't have Storm yet. So he might be waiting for that. But at the same time, if we look at the resources lost now, way more resources, not way more, but more resources lost for the Protoss, and this should not be. And like I said before, Look at what he's doing, bringing in drops. And like I said before, there's nothing to really stop these. So, what did I say last game in PvZ? A good way to do these sorts of harassments is if you're having a huge battle in the front and your opponent doesn't. Oh, that's a cool looking Archon. Anyways, um, it's a really good idea to, if your opponent is tacking like he is doing right here, he's not going to have, or he's most likely not going to have the APM to be able to pay attention to what's happening at his base. And so we can see this played out here. So he's focusing here, and you can see. Actually, let's make this a little bit more interesting. We'll look at only the Protoss camera right now. So he's focusing on only this battle. Right now, he does not have the APM to look at those red dots, what's going on in space. He's only focusing on this, and not only that, he's losing the battle too. So he's fighting, fighting. Now he realizes, oh crap. Workers killed. Um, 34 workers killed. Let's look at the harvesters now. 29 to 40. In that short amount of time, this is the perfect time to be doing harassment like this. When they're preoccupied, trying to attack your army, when their army is way out of position and you know that he doesn't have much at his base, you can take out a ton of units. And you can see here, even when he warps in units back at home, I mean, it's a medevac, and medevac with Marine Marauders is not going to be taken out with just a couple of zealots. And you can see here, like I said, a couple of zealots aren't going to do anything with this. He was able to clean up here, looks like. Not even. He was able to pick up. He's going to drop here and do even more damage here. And he's not even really doing anything. Now, what kind of position are we in now? We lost our whole army up front. We lost all of our harvesters because we didn't have our army to defend to make our advantage greater than it already was. He was already in a very perfect position. All he had to do was really just out macro the Terran with upgrades and units, and he would have been fine this game. But because he was way too greedy, because he overcommitted attacking and not defending, um, the Terran was able to get back in the game with very nice harassment and really well. I don't know if he was planning to time that at that time, but it was basically the perfect storm to take out the Protoss in this situation. And you can see that the Protoss doesn't even have a bank right now, so there's no way that he can reinforce his army. And you already see that the replay is about to end. And yeah, that's basically a really good way of wasting your advantage. Just overcommitting. Um, don't attack into a planetary when you don't have AoE. Make sure you have Storm or a bunch of Colossi. Or at the very, very, very least, like if you have a bunch of Immortals and Stalkers and you attack it, like if you kill it in maybe 2 or 3 volleys before they can even repair, sure. But you need to be able to take out that planetary quickly or else you're never going to kill it. And you can see that it already has 15 kills. And that's basically the end of the game right here. So, does anyone have any questions about anything? Uh, I think we pretty much went over everything. I don't know if I'm really missing anything. I think I hit all the points that I really wanted to hit. And that's basically it for, yeah, that's basically it for today. Like I said, if you guys have any questions, please say them in chat and I can get to you guys. Also, if you are not already subscribed, I would encourage you to try to subscribe to my Twitch channel because I do, not only do I do all of my lectures here, I also like to stream my live commentary with on ladder here. So if you want to check out how crappy or good I am, you can always come back and check out me later. And I believe that's it for now. So if I don't see any sort of questions within the next minute or so, I'm gonna turn off the stream. And yeah, and thank you, Javelin SC, because this is why I do this. All I really want to do is just help some new people out. I know this game can be very daunting to newer players and things like that. There's so much involved in this game. Um, but yeah. Ooh, I am sorry, Chronos 9. Uh, I am in Masters League. To give you a reference, I was hitting, I ended at 1300 last season, and I was, at my highest, I was hitting like 1450 to give you an estimate of, I guess, how good I am. I don't know. To give you my level of what I am. But yeah. Does anyone have any questions about the gameplay, about what we saw? I will post this VOD um, in the Reddit thread, so in case if you missed it, you can always just check out the VOD and watch it over. But it doesn't look like you guys have any questions about the gameplay and things like that. So, like I said, if you like what you saw, please subscribe. Um, if you're not already on the University of Reddit site, Uh, please join it. Really helps me out. Um, and I will give you a link here. Let's see. What the? There we go. Class page. Yeah, shoot the question. Let me know.